Let's make a DIY raincoat. To make your own raincoat, you're going to want to get probably around 2 yards or so of some sort of waterproof material. You can get it at most fabric stores. And then I'm just going to cut a straight rectangle across. This is where you're going to measure your natural hip and then how far you want your coat to go down. Next, you're going to want to try to find some sort of raincoat either you already have or even just a coat you have, and you're going to trace out the top of it. This is going to provide us the shell for the top portion of our coat that we will then be able to at some point sew on to the bottom. So once I had it all cut out, it was time to start working on the bottom of my raincoat. So I wanted to add pleats, kind of like a nice box pleat look. And to do that, I measured out exactly about 1.5 inch box pleats and took that all the way across this rectangular piece of fabric. So I ended up with about 5 box pleats, and then I left a little extra on either side, and this would also be depending on what size material you used. Then I just took a straight seam across so I could have those box pleats complete and actually be sewn in. Then it was time to take a hem on the bottom of the raincoat. So to do this, I'm going to do a rolled hem, as you can see on either side. I also tried to bring in some of the fabric to give it a little neater look, but I want to do a rolled hem on the bottom so that you cannot see any of the raw edge. So with that hem now complete, it's time to actually start working on the top of my raincoat. So to do this, I'm using what I cut out earlier, and we're going to be sewing these eventually to each other, but first I'm going to take a shoulder seam as well as the seams on the side. And to do that, all I'm going to do is just pin up both the sides as well as the shoulders, being very careful to make sure that I'm pinning just directly at the part that I'm going to be sewing. So now that that is done, I have the basic shell for the top of my raincoat. It's time to start working on the sleeves as well as a hood. So for the hood, what you can do is get a hoodie or some sort of jacket that has a hood and trace that out and cut it. And you're going to want to cut 2 of them so that you'll be able to remove the raw edges from the hood itself. Next, we're going to work on the sleeve. So again, just take some sort of hoodie or jacket you have, and you're going to trace out the sleeve for your raincoat. You're going to want to cut 2 of these, so 1 for each sleeve, and then this will be kind of like that color blocking element. So here are my hood pieces. So what I'm going to do is just pin all the way around and take a seam on for either piece, and I'm going to do the exact same for my sleeve, as I'm just going to sew all the way down. Since these pieces are going to be coming into contact with water, since it's a raincoat, make sure you are pinning as close as possible to the edge so that you don't get any extra holes in your fabric. So now it's time to attach the sleeves to the armhole of our jacket. So with right sides together, you're just going to be matching those up. And then in addition, we're also going to be working on our hood. So once you have both sleeves attached on either side of the jacket, for the hood, you're going to be matching with right sides together, those 2 pieces, and then just pinning around. As you can tell, I've pinned very close to the edge to try to reduce any holes that could come up in the fabric so that it will stay very waterproof. So here is our current jacket. You can tell it now has sleeves and it has that basic jacket shape. So now it's time to focus on how we're going to be attaching the hood on. Before I actually sew the hood onto the jacket though, I need to make sure it is fully prepared for that. And what I mean is that I'm going to do a rolled hem on either side of the jacket so that when I attach the hood, there's not going to be any raw seams that I have to worry about on the front. So turning my jacket inside out, I'm just going to start folding the fabric over on the edge and then folding it again so that it has that rolled appearance. And then I'm just going to take a seam on either side. So here is the jacket. You can tell that we have the hem done on either side, and in addition, I also did hem the sleeves of my jacket just to make sure there's no raw edges there. Did very similarly to the other rolled hems. So now what it's time to do is basically attach our hood to the jacket itself. So with right sides together, what you're going to do is pin the hood along the top part of your jacket and then just take a seam. Once you do that, you will see that there are some raw edges, so we are going to have to go back and kind of deal with how we want to make sure that those aren't visible, but we're starting to really get the completed look of the jacket so far. So now it is time to attach the top of our jacket to the bottom. To do this with right sides together, I'm just going to be pinning all the way around. If at any point you do have a little extra, feel free to add a pleat or 2 just so that you kind of get everything to lay nice and flat, and then go ahead and take that seam. So now our main jacket frame is completed. As a fun touch, I am going to add a brown belt to keep with the color blocking look. You do not have to do this, it's completely optional, but if you do want to do it, what I would suggest is cutting out a long rectangle And then I'm folding that in half so that you will pin it up, and then you're going to take a seam down that long edge as well as one of those shorter edges, and then you will turn this right side out. Once you have it nice and turned, what you're going to do is fold in one of the edges on itself and just take a seam right across there. So now I'm going to set my belt to the side for a second, and I'm going to finish off the edges where I attach the top to the bottom of my raincoat. And to do this, I'm going to follow very similarly to how I've been doing before and taking a rolled hem, and I'm going to do this all the way through. So as you can tell, I had quite a bit of fabric. I took about an inch seam allowance on this so that I would be able to get that rolled hem effect. And then I'm just going to be taking a seam at both the top of this as well as the bottom, so it's 2 seams. Next raw edge to finish off is where we attach the hood to the top of the jacket. So for this, I'm actually just going to use bias tape, as I feel like this is going to be much more comfy if it hits your face, as it's like that nice soft cotton feel. And then once I pin it on, I'm just going to take a seam. So now it's time to add our belt to our jacket. So the way I'm going to do this is figure out where exactly in the middle is, or where I would like kind of a seam or a snap to go. And then I'm going to pin my belt there as well, just so that I know where it is going to be sitting. I am going to be using these little plastic snaps to hold it in place, as I've really gotten to like these and I find them very useful since I still have a whole box of them. So I'm just going to install the snap there so that I'm able to take this belt on and off if I need to. Everything's coming along really well, so now what it's time to do is add the snaps to the front of the raincoat. So to do that, I marked out where I want them to go, so I measured to make sure that it would be an even distance between them, and then I'm just installing them using this little tool that I got with the box off Amazon. I will be sure to link it below in case you'd like to order one yourself. And these are my new snaps on the dress. And here it is, all complete. I love how it turned out. I love the color blocking effect. I also think it's going to be really fun to wear even when it's raining outside, and the hood just gives it that nice extra waterproof ability. In addition, we really made sure there's no raw edges and there was no pattern needed, so you can make one yourself as well. If you like this video and want to see more, be sure to like and subscribe.